Hey, what's up, and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars, where today I'm going to be talking about the latest installment into the Paranormal Activity universe of films, which premiered on the Paramount Plus streaming service today. It's Paranormal Activity, Next of Kin. Paranormal Activity, Next of Kin follows around a documentary filmmaker as she tracks down a relative of hers that she never knew, who turns out to be Amish. To learn more about her heritage, she plans to film the daily life of this Amish family, but when they discover a hidden church deep in the woods, she begins to realize that these Amish may be hiding a terrible secret. As a fan of the series, I realized that over the years, the quality of the franchise has diminished significantly. The Ghost Dimension specifically was incredibly strange, as it included a camera that could see in 3D and film paranormal stuff, and the film even had time travel. Time travel, guys! The film before that had superpowers. So I knew going in that this film was probably not going to be great, yet, I can't help myself because I still hype myself every single time to see one of these movies. As soon as I saw Paranormal Activity in the title, I got a little bit giddy. I never won't watch one of these movies, take it that way. I mean, sure, it's getting harder and harder to explain why, but because I loved that first film, and I consider that to be one of my best horror film experiences ever, I can't say no to any of the movies. But Next of Kin, hardly a Paranormal Activity film. Heck, it's even hardly found footage. So Paranormal Activity ranged through 6 different movies, and they got wackier and wackier, absolutely, but they were always about the same family, involving Katie and Hunter, as well as a 3-toed demon primarily. It evolved into more of a conspiracy involving witchcraft and everything, and it got really obscure. But at the end of the day, you could always at least expect some kind of connection to the first couple of movies. Next of Kin is entirely its own thing. No connection to any previous Paranormal Activity film. Different set of characters, different lore, different demon, all that. For some, they might welcome that shift. For me, though, I kind of have to question on if calling it Paranormal Activity is even appropriate, or if it really should have been called something else. Personally, I think they tagged on that title to gain more of an audience, since Paranormal Activity is already this established franchise. But if you can recall, after that first Paranormal Activity movie, everybody wanted to do the same thing. Found footage just started showing up in the world of horror everywhere because everybody was doing it. And they all just felt like cheap imitations or knockoffs of Paranormal Activity, and honestly, that's exactly what Next of Kin feels like. A cheap imitation or knockoff. Beyond that, this is also hardly found footage, as it's a documentary crew, so a lot of what they do is very professional. The image quality is crisp, it's clear, it looks great, which is a million miles away from that amateur look that Paranormal Activity was known for. These people use things like slow motion and drone coverage, and it removes that suspension of disbelief that the original series had, because this feels far too produced to be believable in any real sense. Being a documentary crew, that also limits the reasons as to why the people are filming what they're filming when they're filming it. The original series, the purpose behind the filming was usually because they were trying to capture something otherworldly. That is not the purpose of this. These people, they're trying to make a movie documenting heritage and Amish stuff. So when they wake up in the middle of the night, hearing or seeing strange things, it makes no real sense to turn on the camera to document it. And this happens constantly. It's a common found footage plot hole that unprofessional filmmakers that don't understand found footage often make. Also, towards the end of the film, they seem to forget that this is supposed to be found footage at all. And there's a ton of shots that do not make sense. And I said aloud, who's filming that? This shot doesn't make sense. That shot does not make sense. It honestly had me shaking my head in disappointment. Thankfully, I didn't really have many expectations with the film going in. I knew that it would be a far cry from the original film, I just didn't know how much. And truth be told, even though The Ghost Dimension is such a wacky installment in the series, I'd rather watch that because that was still connected to everything, and I do have fun with certain aspects, even though it's kind of a dumb movie. This was just a mess, honestly, and absolutely nothing that you have to watch. I'm honestly having trouble finding any real positive here because I didn't even care that much for the premise or the setup of the story of this girl who was adopted trying to figure stuff out about her history. She had so little character development that honestly it just does not matter. As for the demon story, hardly anything about the overall atmosphere of the movie feels haunted other than maybe a couple of moments, so even the pacing wasn't really that great or scary. I jumped like once due to a cheap jump scare early on in the film, but that's the only spot that startled me. Everything else was just a chore to get through. So yeah, I mean, I liked the series and I'll always watch an installment, of course, but this was not that great. Let's go ahead and break down my final score for a second. From a technical, unbiased level, I think a majority of this film looks fine and operates as it intended to, but it also sometimes does not follow the rules of found footage, and certain shots don't make sense and they're left unexplained. Also, the pacing of the story does not flow naturally or have a very good build-up of tension at all. So overall, mostly business as usual, by the book stuff, technically speaking, but it also fails where it specifically needs to impress an audience that is already tired of the Paranormal Activity name. This score is 48%. As for how I personally felt about the movie, or my bias score, this is way lower than that because this is a far cry of anything that you want to see, whether you're a fan of Paranormal Activity or not. It's painfully unscary, annoying at times, you don't care about the characters, it's hardly considered Paranormal Activity or found footage, and I constantly struggle to find any reason whatsoever to watch it. This score is 16%, meaning that when we combine the two scores together, we come to the final rating of 32%. 32 out of 100 possible stars, or an F letter grade. The lowest score that I've given any Paranormal Activity film. The next worst would be Paranormal Activity 4, which I rated 52%, which is 20% better than this heaping pile of crap. Did you guys see Next of Kin? And if so, leave your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. And as for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come up with my next review. And until then, happy Halloween, and peace out!
Dave examines movies we just watch for fun. Davey is the expert. He is the